Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the Pick and Pay Wine Club virtual event this evening. Jono hasn't shrunk or got a little bit wider. That's me. I'm Tjaart Walraen. I'm your host chef this evening, so it's wonderful to be here. And I'll be taking you through a step-by-step approach on the food components and bringing everything together. And of course, a big thank you straight away out to the Pick and Pay group with Pick and Pay Wine Club, Pick and Pay Online. And of course, a very important part this evening is Boekenhoutskloof wine. Now, looking straight across at the portfolio of wines, not the sort of name that all jumps out and associates with this brand, but it's lovely to get to understand and be educated more about those wines and the stable that they fall in. And I'm joined by a winemaker himself, Gottfried. Good evening, and a very warm welcome to the event tonight.
Yes, thank you. It's absolutely fantastic to be here, able to share our wines and tell a little bit of our story of Boekenhoutskloof, and hopefully I'll learn something in the kitchen tonight. So thank you.
Oh, well, hopefully we'll learn something about wine as well, which is equally important there. I trust you already at home, got all your ingredients out in some format. We're going to go in a step-by-step approach. A little bit of housekeeping very quickly. For those who want the best sort of screen, if you look at the top left, there are three little dots and you want to pin your screen so you can actually see us and our bounty of wonderful ingredients. We have muted you all, so if you want to have any questions or things answered along the way, you can type them in and they'll pop magically up on a screen in front of us, and we'll answer as we go throughout the evening. So please interact. We ask you to please leave your sort of screens on. We want to see you, that you're actually in the kitchen doing things, and have a bit of fun. It just makes things a lot more easier for us, because we live in this sort of virtual world, but at the same time it's pretty fun and funky at that. We'd like to make sure you take lots of pictures as you go along the way, so please don't forget to hashtag P&P Wine Club and then hashtag Boekenhoutskloof this evening. We do have 3 prizes up for grabs of 300 Rand in smart shopper points, so please make sure you take your pictures of your wonderful creations. Be very proud of them, shine your your Noddy badge on that, and we'll select 3 lucky winners at the end of the evening. So that's what we've got lined up for you as little treats in addition tonight. But I think we should get eating and drinking, but I think probably drinking first more so, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Let's start by cracking open the Wolftrap Red.
Oh, fantastic. So everybody out there, let's open your Wolftrap Red and let's pour a glass, because we're all quite thirsty already. We're only a couple of minutes in. But I think, we're going to get Gottfried to sort of kick off and tell us a little bit about Boekenhoutskloof as a whole, and then obviously, into the different silos. But first of all, cheers to you out there. Gottfried, cheers to you. Ching, ching. All right. So go on, tell us a bit about your portfolio and the brand.
Yeah, so Boekenhoutskloof, it was established here in the early 90s. It was basically a group of friends who became partners. Today, the company is run by Mocke, who's the managing partner and technical director. And the first vintage was only in 1996. It was actually a very small production.
Okay, yeah.
And it grew from that to being today one of the biggest, I guess, privately owned wine companies in South Africa. And I guess you could say we kind of represent more the modern era of winemaking in the Cape, and we very much diversified, and everything we do is not always so much about variety and style, but it's often geographical. So if we think of these varieties, like Rhone varieties, like Syrah, Grenache, Cinsault, Chenin also, we work exclusively with the Swartland region for the wonderful schist soils, Stellenbosch for Cabernet Sauvignon and Franschhoek Cabernet, and then Old Vine Semillon in Franschhoek. Also, a new project we're doing today is a project in the Ader Valley. We're focusing purely on Pinot and Chardonnay. So it's very exciting, and it's a wonderful thing about making wine in the Cape is that I can drive 1 hour in any direction, and I'm on a different soil, different microclimate, and that's why we can do these wonderful diversified offering, which makes winemaking in the Cape so interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think it is so diverse. Now, Wolftrap, we certainly know all about it. So I think it's sort of one of those sort of staples we drink from, when we start drinking all the way through the ages. But I mean, in the stable, I mean, I think everyone's, familiar with the chocolate block, which is our own little portfolio, and Boekenhoutskloof for 7 Chairs, which I've got to know as well. But yeah, Wolftrap in itself, I mean, I think it's something we all associate with. And what should we sort of start be looking at with something like this in terms of wine flavor?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, a lot of people are familiar with the brand. I mean, it's a household favorite, if you really want to put it that way. But the thing is, for us, it's always been a very gastronomic style of wine. Okay. And what we mean is that for us, it's not important kind of primary fresh fruit and acidity. For us, it's a wine that we want to create more texture, kind of mouthfeel, kind of generous fruit. And it kind of, because of our philosophy, we don't believe in acidifications. Okay. We don't do any of those additions. It must be kind of an honest kind of offering of wine. And the blend is interesting. You see that on the back label, we actually write Syrah and not Shiraz.
Okay.
And Syrah is because it's an indication, a stylistic kind of approach towards the variety of Syrah. Shiraz means it's a modern style of the variety where it's more about oak and kind of sweetness. Where here it's more about kind of peppery and spices. That's why we write Syrah, which in the spirit of the old world.
Yeah.
And then obviously we blend in something we call Mourvèdre. So for a lot of people, it's maybe not a variety they're very familiar with, but it comes mainly from the Mediterranean regions. Think of regions like the Languedoc, Roussillon, places like this. And it's an interesting variety because it brings a lot of the dark fruits into a wine, but it also brings a lot of that kind of earthy, kind of savory characteristics. And that kind of, for me, gives a kind of a palate feel and a texture that makes these wines so interesting to pair with food, and just a very gastronomic offering. Yeah.
Oh, talking of gastronomic, I think it's time to get into the kitchen. So we've all hopefully acclimatized to the wine. I've always said, your first sip is always rather aggressive. So have another. Oh, anyway, so wine to the side now, everybody out there. I hope you're all now ready, feeling a little bit more relaxed, not so nervous. It's nice to see a few faces on the screen there. So let's hit out your first canapé, which is going to be the Brezola and melted brie slider that we're gonna create. And in that box, you should have a lovely brioche bun. Now, what you see in front of me here, I have half of what you have between 2 people. I can see there's a couple of groups amongst us, but that's also fine. So you've got a lot more ingredients, but I'm doing half the amount that what you're doing. So literally just a portion for one. Clearly, I don't need to eat. I need to feed my counterpart tonight. But with the brioche bun, the butter, maybe some Brezola, a little bit of brie cheese there, a fresh radish, which we're going to cut up just now, your cranberry and red onion marmalade, and a little bit of biltong dust. So I trust you've got all those components ready. You can start sort of opening up your wrappers if you haven't. I've got my wonderful kitchen fairies that help me here. So first things first is to get your stove on and get that to a nice sort of temperature. What we're going to do is toast that beautiful brioche bun. So taking your brioche bun and a bread knife, and let's just slice that there. I'm sure you've all probably read the instructions of what to do. And again, you don't have to follow everything word for word. Just sort of follow and get creative. I mean, it's supposed to be fun and relaxed in the kitchen. To that, I want you to please butter your brioche, just in case it hasn't got any more butter in there. For those of you who don't know, brioche bread is basically an enriched dough with butter and egg yolks. So it's extremely light, but extremely and exceptionally rich, and I think, really unctuous kind of flavors there. So go on, generously butter there. If you don't want to, you can just pop it into the pan. It's entirely up to you. And then take your lovely little buttered buns and pop them into your pan. All right, that's step number 1 there. I think we're all getting there little bit by little bit. We all happy? Everyone's all following? Fantastic. Right, for those of you, then need to take and unwrap your brie cheese and open that. That's been beautifully cut from you. Oh, look at that cheese. Oh, one of my favorite cheeses. Yours too?
That was great.
Yes, them. Oh,
wow.
We're going to smell that. No. Okay, your brie cheese, pop that onto the board, and I want you to cut that in half, please. Lovely and ripe brie cheese there. And then take in your Brezola. So once you put your Brezola, and again, always work with as a conveyor belt. When there are, sort of 10 of you for dinner, 20, 200, work like a conveyor belt. So put all your sheets of Brezola out. and then have all your brie cheeses to go in. And what we're going to do is take that piece of brie, pop it sort of 2/3 of the way down, and then you want to basically roll that bottom third over and roll it up. All right, just like that, ever so gently. And let's do the same on the other one as well. And then let's just roll that there. Okay, so get rolling. Pop your little sausages to the side there, basically. I'm going to check my pan here. I clearly need to crank up my heat. I'm working on induction, so it's like magnets and it fuses. Let me tell you, it's a nightmare at times because it gets really, really hot and fired up. So I've got to control it. Probably a few of you on gas and things like that, but that's all good. So let's have a look. How's that toasting? Oh, look at that bubble and sizzle going on there. All right, you're up to speed. Looking good. Confident, some of you? Very good. Fantastic. Right, let's get all that nicely toasted. So if you've got some space in your pan, because it's like sort of almost like a one-pan wonder, I would like to take your wrapped bresaola and pop that into the pan as well. Oh, I'm starting to cook now. I've got a bit of a sizzle going on here. All right. So with that there, keep checking your bun. You want a nice sort of coloration to it. Color is flavor at the end of the day. Could you say the same thing about wine? The deeper, the darker the color, the better the flavor?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, color is such an indication of. I mean, we always obviously joke, we say you can't taste color.
Yeah.
But color does give a very good impression, an interesting impression of what's actually going on in the wine.
Okay.
So when you have Pinot Noir, you obviously don't want a dull color. You want a certain kind of a brightness. With Syrah, you want to see a bit of that kind of black dark fruits kind of staying in the color of the wine. And so it is very important. And yeah, so color is not everything, but it plays important part of how you present the wine. Then it's in the indication of the health of the wine.
Yeah,
we'll never forget that.
The health of the wine. Yeah. There we go. So some information to use or lose. Anyway, I'm toasting my bresaola here. I just want that beautiful gooey cheese to start melting. Oh, that's going to be unctuous and rather voluptuous. So just keep tossing that in your pan as you go. We're all following bit by bit. I've taken my buns off. Oh, and you know what? My biggest sort of little porcupine in the world, it doesn't look burnt. It's not burnt. Caramelized is the word. That's your bon vieux word tonight. Caramelized at the end of the day. So you got your bun ready and pop the base in front of you in the middle. So some of you should have 2, 3, 4. I think it's groups of 6 tonight as well, which is very cool. Right, and I'm going to switch off my pan here and look at that lovely little sizzle. Oh, that brie cheese all starting to melt. And what we're going to do is transfer that onto our little bottom of our bun. It's that simple. Oh, this really is. The smell in here, smell-o-vision is coming one day, ladies and gentlemen, one day. I'd like you to pop your now fried bresaola on top of that. So we're all good. Glad someone's taking a drink there. That's what we need. Okay, to that, what we need to do is take a little bit of our red onion and cranberry marmalade. So we've made this up for you. You can get all your ingredients from your local Pick and Pay. Take up onions, slice them up, start cooking them down, a little bit of olive oil, salt, pepper, a little bit of balsamic vinegar, a little bit of sugar, and then add your cranberries to that. And I want you to take a teaspoon and place a teaspoon of that on top of each morsel. What's really important is to make sure you get a little bit of everything everywhere. So every mouthful is going to have brioche bun, it's going to have bresaola, it's going to have the brie cheese, the cranberry marmalade as well. So pop that on the top. And then your lovely little radish. I'd like you to take your radish and with your knife, just a couple of very thin slices as you go. Remember the knife? Let the knife do the work. So you can sort of saw. It's not about the weight in there. Just slice away very gently and let the knife do the work. And then you get these lovely, very thin sort of pieces of radish. And then just very gently pop those onto the top. It's going to be really chefy, Pop 3 on because 3 is always aesthetically pleasing, always your odd numbers as opposed to your even numbers. And then last but not least, a little bit of good old biltong dust. For those of you that don't know about biltong dust, really dried up biltong sticks, put them into a food processor, blitz them, and off you go, biltong dust. And sprinkle a little bit of that onto your bun like that. Oh, this is really looking fantastic. And I want you to pick that up and pop that onto your platter that we've sent to you. And then pop your little brioche bun on top or on the side. I want to show you how beautiful my creation is. And there we go. How simple, how beautiful is that? I mean, oh, it really is something quite magic to behold. All right, how's everybody doing there? All happy? All good? Looking confident? Oh, I love the big table, guys, that are all set up there. Very smart, very elegant. Everyone sort of got jobs and working away, which is great. So yeah, oh, I think what a combination. I think we need to drink to that. Any other sort of further notes that you could add to this?
Yeah,
what we're going to experience?
I just think might be interesting also the name Wolftrap. That as a story. You know, the original winery of Boekenhoutskloof, and we were also where I spent most of my time in Franschhoek. The old first pioneers, they actually erected an old wolf trap. They never actually caught anything. I mean, it's a mystical wolf. And then kind of the idea came up to name this the Wolftrap. And so, yeah, it is an actual wolf trap in Franschhoek. And so that's quite a cool story to the brand.
Comes from. Fantastic. Well, I think we should do some sort of eating and drinking. I think we've all got up to speed. Are we all confident? There's a few people I still see putting in their last few touches together. Hope you've all got your glass of wine that's been refreshed if need be. But I think we're all looking pretty good, confident out there. Oh, there's some busy people out there, guys. Lovely to see you all working hard. But go on, I think it's sort of almost time to start eating and delving into this here. So, you know, you've got to really see that lovely cross-section of all the wonderful cheese gooing. I mean, just look at that. That's what you want there. With the cheese bresaola. Can I pass this to you?
Hey, absolutely.
There we go.
Absolutely.
That's actually, look at that cheese just oozing down. Oh, that's magic. Oh, and I think that bresaola, really a beautiful cured meat, that wonderful salt intensity, which sometimes actually can fight with wine, but I think with this, it's going to really pair beautifully.
I think it absolutely will complement it. I mean, I think it's really the saltiness that will save the wine. It was really...
Which, I mean, salt, as I said, you know, is one of those things that doesn't always work. It sort of can clash at times with certain wines. But I mean, what makes it not clash at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think very important is tannins and acidity. You know, when a wine is high in tannin, you have to be careful. It can make a wine a bit more astringent. And in acidity, you have to be careful also with wines that are very high in acidity, especially when you have like cheese and kind of these kind of cured meats and things. It can make the wine a little bit metallic. But yeah, because we obviously don't follow more traditional winemaking practices, you shouldn't have any of kind of that.
Those tannin and characteristics. Well, I must say, it's actually saying it's sort of quite smooth, mellow. I don't know how you'll find it out there. All mellow for everybody. Yeah, hopefully everyone's surprised. But I hope you're enjoying that lovely little morsel. I mean, it's full of flavor. That richness of the brioche, I think, really is something. I mean, that's, you know, I think if I had to die, that'd be one of the few things I would die happily eating at the very end is brioche. It is just something that is so unctuous and of course more butter with it.
But what I do find interesting now, tasting the wine, it actually brings a bit more that kind of generous fruit sweetness that you get from Syrah, which was not so apparent because when I had it before, we actually ate something. It was more Mourvèdre was kind of more overpowering. It was more that savoriness from Mourvèdre, but now that syrup, spices, and fruit is actually coming through. So, interesting match. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, you know, are you looking like you're all getting stuck into that? You're eating, drinking, getting really merry. What I really love is how, you know, it should leave your palate lovely and clean. You should enjoy the wine on its own and then the food, but then the wine comes back in after another sip and cleans your palate. And it leaves it lovely and fresh, ready for the next morsel. But I think we're a winning combination there. Have we got thumbs up from everybody? Are we all quite happy there? Yeah. Some of us all sort of chewing away, all very happy at that. Well, I think a great one for the Wolftrap and a lovely little bresaola slider. Simple, easy, with all your ingredients from your local store. I hope some of you tagged away and have taken pictures as you've gone along the way. Don't forget to hashtag P&P Wine Club and Boekenhoutskloof because we've got those 3 prizes at the end to give away. So without further ado, I think it's time to get on to the next little chapter. So if you want to get your next glasses at the ready, and I think your next bit of wine as well, which is Porcupine Ridge, which is also from the beautiful valley in the winelands of
Franschhoek
Franschhoek.
originally, yeah. So yeah, I mean, Porcupine, I mean, it's the story of Boekenhoutskloof, you know, with the first vintage in 96 and 97 started making the first Porcupine Ridge. And it was actually a Sauvignon from Franschhoek, and the brand just grew from there. And obviously named after the crested porcupine, the nocturnal porcupine in our valley, and which can sometimes be a nuisance on the farm as well. Especially interesting, yeah. I mean, they protect it, and they're all part of our wonderful biodiversity and everything. But I must say, this year, just before this winter, we had quite a lot of drought summers, and it was very dry, and they ate most of our irrigations on the farm. Everywhere they're looking for water, you see there's some piece of pipe shoot through or something. Yeah. So, but yeah, anyway, so the brand Porcupine Ridge has just been around for quite some time, and one of the wines we do is Cabernet Sauvignon, where we focus mainly on vineyards in the Franschhoek Valley in Stellenbosch, and it's a very classic style of Cabernet, where it's kind of want to show a little bit of that cassis and graphite and black fruits, and kind of, you know, that kind of fine tannin, but that dry tannin that makes Cabernet interesting variety. Yeah,
fantastic. Well, I think I'd love a glass of that if you may. So whilst you are getting organized, let's move on to your next wine, which is the Porcupine Ridge, which we've had a bit of an intro in, which I always think is fascinating to know where these names come from and conjure up, but certainly a wonderful creature if you've got to see it out there. So yeah, oh, look at that color now. Fantastic. So onto your Porcupine Ridge, everybody. Let's get our palates acclimatized to that very shortly, because I think it's always very important. And start, you know, swirling the glass, you know, let's look slightly sophisticated, and have a bit of a swirl and a bit of a nose. Any particular way to sort of nose the wine per se when you sort of smelling, or just?
Yeah, you know, I think what people, viewers should just remember, you know, these wines are bottled on the Stelvin. So it is important maybe to aerate it a bit with a bit bigger glass. Give them a bit of time and air, and you see they'll open up nicely, because when you pour it in, it might still be a little bit kind of austere and a bit of tight and a bit of shy, and with time it should open up, and it normally always opens up beautifully, and you start getting so much more of that classic Cabernet characteristics, and I think that's what makes it such an interesting variety, you know. From you know, obviously South Africa, we're so successful with the Rhine varietals, and obviously Chenin being kind of becoming such an important variety in South Africa, a real champion for South Africa. But the last years we've been, especially in the Stellenbosch region, Cabernet Sauvignon has been absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I mean, we have a climate and a soil there that gives a style of Cabernet that, you know, if you close your eyes, sometimes you taste those wines, you think you'll be standing somewhere in Bordeaux or one of the great French regions, and tasting Cabernet there. We just have such an absolutely special region for producing Cabernet.
Well, I think we have such, you know, fantastic wine here that we actually, you know, we always think, you know, the French are better and things like that. But I think, you know, we've got something to really celebrate here in South Africa, is we have, you know, we were talking earlier on, we have great produce, you know. I mean, you go down to any of your local stores, we have such fantastic produce. I mean, there's a lot that gets exported, but I mean, we do have great, you know, produce, and we have some great wines that I think we need to all enjoy. I think it's, you know, it's really important to support local, you know, drive the local market, because we have fantastic product. And you say you close your eyes, you can literally be sort of, you know, transponded all the way to French, but you're actually drinking South African wine, and, you know, we have that association.
Yeah. And I think also because in the wine industry today, you see everybody's talking about it, about sustainable farming. There's a lot of organic farms opening up. I mean, you think all our properties are now organically certified and accredited at Boekenhoutskloof, and so there's a real movement for kind of creating real, I would say, like a real honest grown fruit, and we know that it reflects in the wines, and it's kind of, and I think that I see more and more. It doesn't matter what price point you are buying in South Africa, especially wine now. You see wines are not that conventional. They've become much more unconventional in style. You know, 10 years ago, you buy wines at these price points, they would be totally overpowered by alternatives like chip and bad, alternative oaking and things like this. And today it's not like that. It's more about creating wines where it's all about kind of purity and tension and real varietal characteristics, which I think is also just so important.
Okay, so you've definitely seen that organic drive starting to.
Yeah, I don't think everything is organic. I think because it's kind of expensive route to go.
Absolutely.
But there's a real drive for sustainability. Permaculture is becoming quite a very big important part of farming today. And we just realized by a lot of this kind of different approach in agriculture we've seen in the last years. It's about preserving vineyards, because you start making great wines from very established vineyards, and there's also a very deep understanding today, which wasn't there long time ago, is that we've realized that you must do what you do best in a region. So regionality has become so important, and it's about protecting vineyards, about and creating vines for the future. And I think that's kind of interesting, and I think in South Africa, when it comes to wine, when it's such an exciting part of our history of wine.
Fantastic. Well, I think some wonderful sort of information there on Porcupine Ridge, but on wines as a whole, and the movement that everything is going towards. So I'd like you to get yourselves ready for action stations back in the kitchen, and we're going to be moving on to creating a wonderful dish that I think everyone sort of has memories of different components in different things. But here we're going to do a lovely fried tortilla with some fried halloumi cheese. So cheese becoming quite a sort of a thing that's working well with your wines in the Boekenhoutskloof stable, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, but I think it's also because the cheese are being actually fried, that you're changing the texture of the cheese and the character of the cheese. And I think that's normally because if cheese is still quite fresh and raw, it can sometimes clash a bit with wine. But when you do it like this, it absolutely changes the whole food and wine experience.
Okay, so quite a nice tip for people that want to pair wine over and above out of this environment is when you start to actually cook it like we are frying it, starts to change it, and it's actually better for pairing as opposed to just a raw cheese. Well, because I mean, let's face it, we all have cheese and wine boards always.
But cheese can be so dominant. It really just overpowers the wine. But it seems to kind of sit back a little bit, and there seems to be a better balance between the two. So
fantastic.
It's obviously also new to me. I'm actually learning.
There we go. Fantastic. Well, some information on cheese and wine. So in your next box, you should have your lovely little tortilla wrap that's been cut for you into a lovely sized portion. Some more butter as well. You should have a little packet of coriander oil that's been packed up for you. And then we've got some lovely marinated peppers and cucumber. Very simply done, of literally in a sort of vinegar, sugar, and spice solution. And then you pour that over and allow that to sort of steep, and it softens really beautifully. But again, any sort of vegetables really work. Chop and change the season, and whatever you can get at your local pick and pay store. And then you've got your halloumi, which we're going to fry off as well. So I'm going to take the same pan and give it a bit of a wipe. So you can wipe your pan. I'm going to actually just get rid of these little bits of cheese shards that I've got left over. And let's pop that back on very gently, and taking your wrap. And I'd like you to take your little thing and pop that onto your chopping board, and then smear that with your butter as well. Just very, very gently, not too much on this here, because obviously the wrap itself is very thin and we don't want too much butter on there. But let's butter those up as we go. So butter your wraps, the 2 or the 4s in the kitchen. I love big teams in there. It's fantastic to see as you're going. And then we're going to pop that butter side down into your pan. Let's just fry that ever so gently and get that going. Are we looking to sort of keep that sort of ticking over? So get your pan on. So really important, with a pan, bring it up to temperature, get it ready so you can just fry it up and get some color on there. That butter is going to start to melt and be absorbed a little bit into that tortilla wrap there, which will be great. And once that's got some color on, then we can start adding our other bits and pieces as well. So get that frying up, and we're going to go on to our next step. If we're all ready. Oh, hurry in the kitchen there. Fantastic. And then we've got our halloumi cheese, which I think is a great cheese to use, because I mean, it's got a real sort of great characteristics in terms of texture. And it really does take up to that frying really well because it holds itself. I think it's a little bit of a chew. So when you're starting to put your canapes together, think of all those components, texture being really important. You always want your carry or foundation I talk about. That's going to be our tortilla wrap. Then you've got your creamy, unctuous kind of note, which is coming through from your halloumi. You want your acidity, which is our pickled vegetables. And then you want that element of freshness, which is coming through from our coriander oil. So put all that together and, just work those components together to get the end result. So let's have a look at here. How's this sort of frying away little bit by little bit? So hopefully your tortillas are frying away. You got to eat and drink and be merry at the same time. So let's have a sip of your wine again. Oh, delicious. So that's starting to sizzle up. Now, entirely up to you, depending on your pans at home. If you've got a pan that things like to stick to, you might want to put a little bit of oil, or you can put a little bit of butter onto your halloumi. So it's entirely up to you if you need to smear a little bit of fat to get into there. I'm just going to take a little bit more of this butter just to really crisp it up. Just a little smear of that onto our halloumi cheese. And then let's start popping that into your pan as well. So again, butter side down, and let's fry that. Oh, love that sizzle. Okay. Get a bit of sizzle with your halloumi because you want to create that beautiful crispy edge on the outside. I think and then you got that wonderful sort of chew in the
caramelized kind of character.
Oh, absolutely caramelized. Right, let's have a look at this little wrap here. Oh, there we go. Look how fabulous that wrap is looking there. All right, so again, color is flavor. It's really going to bring everything together. And let's get a bit of a jiggle with our pan here and check that. I'm going to turn that down ever so slightly there. So hopefully you've got your tortillas fried up and your halloumi is frying along the way as well. Just keep an eye on that and see how that goes. Oh, look at that. I'm going to just put it onto here so you can all see, and hopefully the camera can zoom in. Again, get that color. Don't be scared, guys, to get that color into there. And then I just sort of flip it over and pop it onto the other side as well. So take that. Oh, yes. There we go. All right. Okay, so fry that away there. Some of you might not be as fast as I am because I'm on the induction. Induction's great. If it's all for speed, it cooks fast and furious. But a bit of gas is also good as well. But crank up that heat and really get that caramelized edge onto your halloumi cheese, which I think we're all looking pretty good. We're all confident out there. Yeah, some of you all checking. All good. Fantastic. Oh, don't forget to take pictures. I love to see the lady there taking pictures. Well done. Well, I am seeing you all. Very good. Okay, once your halloumi is fried, I'd like you to take a piece of that and pop that straight on top. So a lovely piece of halloumi into the center of your little wrap there. Oh, lovely little morsel. Fantastic. Onto that, we're going to take our peppers. Now, you can be a little bit chefy if you want, and you sort of can cut these into longer strips. Entirely up to you. I guess you could cut it into little dice. Now, you can be creative as you like in the kitchen. So chop away, dice away, whatever you want to do. And what you want to do then is just take those pieces and just pop them on the top. I think a little more here. Let's be generous with those peppers. Let's get rid of that. And then you've got your pickled cucumber that we've got for you as well. Entirely up to you. If you want to make it sort of have a bit of height and make it very photogenic, of course, pop that onto the top and nestle it on like that. Right, how are we doing with that? So we should have your lovely little tortilla that's fried, your halloumi, and then your pickled vegetables. We've got pepper and cucumber on the top there. So that's the stage we should be at. Some of you looking very relaxed and content, which I love to see. And then mix up your coriander oil that we've just blended together. So this is our wonderful fresh element. And let's just sort of snip the little tip of that there. And let's have a little bit of a drizzle on top of that, just like that. Now, one thing I always love to do is actually put everything together on my chopping board. If everything's not together on my chopping board, all the mess stays here. What I do is lift it, pop it up, and pop it onto my platter, and your platter stays nice and clean. So try not to assemble on your actual serving dish. And what I'm going to do is then pick that up and pop that onto your plate. Oh, hearty. That's what I love about South Africa. Everything's like hearty, big pieces of things that you just got to sort of maw your way into. And it's as simple as that. I mean, really quite simple. Can't quite say, you know, winemaking is as simple as that, really.
it's basic. It's basic. Anybody can make one.
Okay, so right, what we've got here is that little canapé that we're pairing with the Porcupine Ridge. Keep your questions coming in. We've got a question that's come out about here. That's actually for you here. Is please could we hear more about the Wolftrap range, in particular the rosé and white wine. So we're going to step back, but let's talk about the Wolftrap, as you know, we've got some interested parties out there.
Yeah, I think I'd like to start maybe just starting with the Wolftrap White. It's a really interesting wine. It's a kind of, you know, like I've mentioned, Mediterranean-inspired winemaking, but we kind of took winemaking and we said we want to have more of an oxidative approach. So it means that we actually make the wine with the influence of oxygen. Okay, you know, where a lot of modern winemaking today is more kind of a reductive winemaking. We kind of keep oxygen out of the winemaking process. So why? Because then it kind of preserves all the freshness and the grapey flavors. So we said, no, it's not so important to us. We wanted to create mouthfeel and texture. And we talk about primary characteristics and we talk about secondary flavors. And through this process, we actually create a style of white where it's about secondary flavors. So it means it kind of, what you normally would smell in the nose actually comes and pulls onto the palate. Okay. So you kind of create a palate where in the aftertaste is a much more different type of richness, different type of character. So, and the varieties that we focus on was mainly Chenin Blanc, because I mean, South Africa has got such a wonderful history of Chenin. Absolutely. And then also Grenache Blanc. So some of you might not be familiar with Grenache, but it's a very classic variety, and it's kind of a very heat and drought resistant variety. It can grow in the most difficult, most arid conditions. And then Viognier. Viognier is a variety mainly from the northern kind of Rhone Valley. It kind of gives a lot more this kind of flowers and aromatics. And so for these three varieties, we created the Wolftrap White. Okay. It's an absolute classic style. The winemaking, when I say oxidative winemaking, it means that's why we actually aged a lot of the white actually in big old concrete vessels. Okay, interesting. So because what a concrete does, it's kind of slightly porous, so it kind of has a slow wine evolution. So there's a constant, like an oxidative oxygen uptake through the aging or the maturation process. A little bit of older oak, and then we created this really, really fun style of white wine. Okay. And the rosé, it's interesting. South Africa has got one of the longest and most amazing history when it comes to a variety called Cinsault. Okay. And Cinsault has been in the Cape maybe with Cinsault, Old and Semillon and Chenin has been maybe one of our most longest established varieties. And Cinsault is a wonderful variety because it's so diverse. So we can have it as a very perfumed and aromatic red wine. Yes. We call it the poor man's Pinot Noir. Yep. But it makes some of the most fantastic rosé. So we started using mainly Cinsault. We obviously blended sometimes a bit of Mourvèdre and a bit of Syrah into it as well. But mainly Cinsault because it gives such a ethereal kind of tasting experience to a rosé. Yeah. And that was the Wolftrap rosé, and it's been in the early days we were kind of, it was a much bigger style, but in the last years we've kind of made it, we lifted it a little bit, made the rosé a little bit more elegant. I guess you can say feminine if you want to use that word, but so it's obviously three fantastic wines. Fantastic. Yeah. We're really proud of those three brands. Okay, brilliant. Well, I hope that's answered your question out there with the white and rosé from Wolftrap, but obviously we're drinking the red, which I must say I thoroughly enjoyed with that there. So anyway, keep your questions coming, and we'd love to answer your questions as you've got. So if you haven't got into your last little canapé, please just fold it up. Gottfried, if you'd like to do the honors, you're very welcome to. Fold it up and then enjoy that little morsel, sip, bite, and enjoy those wonderful combinations. You can indeed, and really get stuck into that, because I think it really is going to be wonderful. And again, playing around with the acidity, that marinated pepper, cucumber,
really starts to change things completely. And what I really love about it, when they, develop things like this is, and again, how you saying your styles of wine are changing. I mean, years ago, we'd never think of acidity, salty kind of foods going with our wine because they were clashing. But as you say, those tannins have mellowed. I think this has mellowed considerably from, when I last tasted Porcupine Ridge, of how much softer, smoother that is. But I guess that's the wine as a whole, where we're going as a market.
It's interesting because before I ate anything, when I just poured wine, it had a lot of real red pepper bell notes on the finish.
Okay.
And that's totally changed now. I mean, it seems like the wines, for me personally, it seems slightly more polished now since I've actually paired it with something.
Yeah.
So that's changed now. It seems to show more of red fruits than that pepper bell that it was showing early on. So it is food does change your wine experience.
Absolutely, completely. Yeah. I think it certainly does. And I hope it's changed your experience and highlighted it as well, which is very important. So we've got all those things out the way of pairing that beautiful Porcupine Ridge, which I trust you've all enjoyed, with that combination. We all got a thumbs up. Yeah, we got a bit of a cheers to you all there. Ching, ching, everybody. I'm glad you've all enjoyed that, and lots of comments saying all delicious and lovely things like that. So let's go on to our last and final pairing this evening, and again playing around with some wonderful flavors. So you can start getting your bottle ready, which we're going to talk about very shortly. But in your box, you'll have a little bamboo skewer. You're going to have some sun-dried tomatoes. And then what we're going to do is we've got a little bit of cured fillet, which we've made for you as well. In here, you've got a whipped feta and mint yogurt dressing, and then some little chickpeas that have been dry roasted, which I'll talk about a little bit as well. So get those all out and ready. And what are we tasting with that? I mean, I think it's, all about wine. And I think this is saying, sort of very special to, Pick n Pay, the liquor side there is something that's quite new, I believe.
Yeah, so this is called the Helderberg Reserve, made out of vineyards in Helderberg, in Stellenbosch region. And it's a Pick n Pay exclusive. I think for us, it's been such a long historic partnership with Pick n Pay, and it was absolutely fantastic and I think the right thing for us to kind of launch it through Pick n Pay. And this has been a long time coming. Over the years, we've invested quite heavily into the Helderberg region. You wouldn't know, but the winery was established in 1906.
Oh wow! Okay.
It was the third cooperative to be established or registered in South Africa, but the first one to actually produce wine, or to process grapes.
Process grapes, yeah.
And we acquired that winery many years ago. We kind of changed it into kind of that suits our kind of idea and a facility that works for us. And in the last years, we've invested into a concept for making wine called the Oxo system, where we actually have a stacking system for barrels, where the barrels are actually on wheels. They can turn 360 degrees.
Okay.
By the end of this year, we'll have a system that we will stack about 6,000 barrels.
6,000
barrels. It's the biggest Oxo system of its kind in the world.
Wow.
But what it does, it actually gives that real special detail and attention to barrel management.
Okay.
Where we do a concept of racking from barrel to barrel. We're doing all this fantastic stuff. We obviously can do now our vegan findings. So all our wines we do is obviously vegan.
Okay.
So we do these findings in the barrels, and it's just something crazy. And because of the Helderberg, I guess being one of the most important wards for producing Cabernet or growing Cabernet within the Greater Stellenbosch region, this year we decided to create a wine that is classic, like within the spirit of the old Helderberg winery. You can see a very classic Bordelais label. You sometimes use the term claret. So claret was kind of made in the classical Cabernet sense. So this is led by Cabernet, but there's a little bit of Cinsault in it.
Okay, yes.
And Cinsault is very important in this wine because it kind of makes the wine a little bit more vinous. And then obviously a bit of Syrah that just kind of gives that tail to the wine. It gives a bit of sweetness and spiciness to the end.
Okay.
And it's just it's such an exciting wine, and yeah, we're very excited about this.
Oh, well, certainly you can pour that into my glass. Let's try that. But there's another word that sort of came to mind that's very sort of at the tip of a lot of people's tongues, and it creates lots of debate. But certainly you mentioned it's being vegan wine. What does being vegan friendly?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that in the last few years have become important.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that the fact is that in wine today, it's as I guess in a lot of things, that traceability is important, and that we can register the brands that there's been in no contact with any animal products in any part of the winemaking process.
The filtering was basically
egg white fining. I mean, I remember in the old days when we were we were doing like 1 egg per hectoliter, and then we did all our red wines at Boekenhoutskloof egg white findings in the old days, and then we actually a truck would stop full of chicken eggs, and then somebody would sit there the whole day and break chicken eggs. So
really,
but we changed all of that. Today we do a fantastic product called made from it's called patatine. It's made from potato peels.
Okay.
It sounds funny, but it's an important thing, because what it does, it helps settle and clean the wines a little bit.
Okay.
So when you do the racking and the filtration prior to bottling, that it's a very clear and clean process, and it's important because it takes away a lot of the astringency in wine. So that's why we want to get a bit more of that kind of polished feel when you drink a bottle of red wine. I think. When you're doing wines like this, you want to buy a bottle, you want to open it, and that's also important. It's especially when it comes to Cabernet, because that Cabernet needs so much time to sometimes integrate and to kind of get that kind of soft mouthfeel and texture, and not everybody's willing to wait 10 years.
Absolutely. Okay, very interesting at that. So for those of you out there are options for vegans as well. So look on that, and I presume it's sort of edged on the bottles and.
It's obviously
as well.
Obviously quite clear on the back label.
There we go. Fantastic. So please make sure you pour your glass of Helderberg if you haven't already. Some of you probably all had a little bit of a swig of that, but let's go and try it. So let's just have a little swirl, acclimatize your palate on that there. And let's move on to our next and last canapé. But please don't forget to hashtag P&P Wine Club and hashtag Boekenhoutskloof as well. We want to see your wonderful creations tonight. So get going on that, because we've got those wonderful prize. Thank you to Pick and Pay for 300 Rand worth of Smart Shopper points. So hashtag away, and let's get going on to our next and final little canapé. So what I'd like you to do is take your sun-dried tomatoes and bring those onto your chopping board. And what we're going to do is just sort of roll them up. We're going to, create a kebab, I guess, at the end of the day. So roll the one up there. And again, as I said earlier, work like a conveyor belt and roll up the next one just like that. And then I want you to bring your little bit of cured beef fillet that we've done here for you. And, think of this as sort of really wet biltong. I think it's sort of the layman terms of describing what this cured beef is. Again, bringing the wonderful salty notes coming through, which I think actually works obviously across all your wines in your stable, which sort of makes it quite unique in its own way. But what I want you to do is let's build this together, and I want you to skewer your first sun-dried tomato. So get that on and pop that on, and then take in your lovely cured bit of beef, slide that on, as well as your next roll of tomato. So beef, tomato, beef, tomato. Yep, that's what you need to create on that there. So we've got that all ready. So you should be making up your two little components, and let's pop that straight onto your presentation board in front of you there. And then we got your lovely whipped feta and mint concoction in here that we've made up for you. So literally taking your feta, bit of yogurt, mint, a little bit of seasoning, done. Really quite simple. And obviously all your ingredients from your local Pick and Pay, so it makes life so much easier. Slip the end of your piping bag, and let's just sort of drizzle that over the top. I mean, one of those things in life, wouldn't it be so magic that every night all your ingredients just sort of arrived like this, and you could just cook like this day in, day out. Huh? would make life simple.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the last little ingredient that we've got is some chickpeas. Take the chickpeas, drain them, and put them into a nice hot oven, a little bit of salt, pepper, a little bit of seasoning if you like, and roast them away until they become lovely and crispy, and then just sort of chop them up. I mean, it really is quite simple. And then a little sprinkle. Oh, let's be a little bit more chefy here. Tjaart, go on. And sprinkle from the top there, allow it to cascade. And again, you want to make sure you have a little bit of that chickpea in every single mouthful, because that really is going to bring everything together. And how simple, gorgeous, and easy does that look?
Fantastic.
Yeah. And again, tomato also a funny one to always pair with wine, I find as well.
Yeah,
because tomatoes, you know, when you certainly sort of dry them, the sugar structure changes, the acidity changes. So quite an interesting combination that we've got with that pairing.
I think this will be an interesting pairing because, I mean, this is obviously very rich, quite complex flavors. And we're interesting to... May I?
Absolutely, you may indeed. And to that, I think we can all start, you know, finishing off and having a little bit of another sip of that wonderful Helderberg that is exclusive to Pick n Pay. So you can all give a bit of a whirl at that and, you know, order some fantastic bottles. I think it's very important. But yeah, let's have a bit of a taste. So again, taste your wine, have a bite of that combination, chew away, try not to mix, of course. And then once your palate's lovely and clean, have another sip of that wine and see how that combination works. The big man himself is really starting to, you know, work that combination of flavors. Well, I can hear the slurp of the wine as well. Getting quite serious.
Yeah.
Sort of baffled you a little bit in one way.
Serious dish and a serious bottle of wine.
Well, that's what's important. How do you think, what works? What characteristics are coming through now?
Definitely takes out a lot of the kind of the freshness of in the Cabernet, of the fruit freshness, or I don't know, you know, and now it seems wine's definitely become much more earthier, much more. I start picking up a more like the meatiness in the wine, like the beefiness, and I think it's obviously that, you know, the cured meat kind of character that was quite complex, it's quite rich. So it's an interesting pairing. I'm not quite sure how the sun-dried tomatoes work, because I've always struggled with that with wine. But I think somehow it works. I think the fact that it's been matured a little bit also. And
well, I think that's where it happens. As you say, you've got lots of complexities working together, and you know, you've got some wonderful sweetness, but some acidity, but also going well. I mean, this is, if you compare this against the other wines, there's a lot more sort of acidity, a bit more tannin structure starting to come through in this wine, which I'm hoping you're all picking up and enjoying that combination of the sun-dried tomatoes, which is unusual, that whipped feta, and then you got that crunch and texture and that beautiful flavor of chickpeas, very coming through slightly, but bringing that textural element together. So I hope you've all enjoyed those combinations that are working together with a wine that's exclusive. So you are, I won't say quite the first to try it all, but I mean, you know, being part of the Pick n Pay Wine Club, you've had that wonderful experience of getting to taste something that is exclusive to Pick n Pay. So 3 wonderful wines from the stables of Boekenhoutskloof, which has been fantastic. So nice to see what else is out there, as we sort of always, you know, quite linear of what our associations with brands and their stables and their portfolio. And 3 wonderful canapes that are very simply put together. And I think that's one thing that's very important, is keep things really simple. And simple things done really well with good quality ingredients is just a perfect marriage. And then, I mean, you've done all the work of putting, you know, some wonderful things into the bottle, I guess.
No, I don't know about that, but it's just so cool to do it like this, and for me, it's absolutely fantastic to be able to show these 3 wines and to show it in this environment. You know, and I think that it's interesting how it's worked, because I mean, for me, it's also been quite new, kind of this pairing experience, but so it's very exciting, and once again, I'm so excited I could share this wine this evening, the last one, the Helderberg Reserve. I think it's just something absolutely fun and fantastic, and I hope the viewers out there also enjoying our wine, and you have a great evening.
Well, I think it has been fantastic. Well, you know, your wealth of knowledge and stuff has been fantastic. Anything in your stable that you know you want to tell everybody out there? I mean, they're all bombiers, you know, been part of the Pick n Pay Wine Club. Anything that should go out there and try, that's, you know, within the portfolio that you've got?
I think this year the Porcupine Sauvignon, which is on the shelf. That's
Yeah.
the new vintage is out. It's really maybe been in the last I don't know, years. It's been really one of our most exciting Sauvignons we've launched in a long time. It's really classic. But that's very exciting. This week we're finalizing and blending the last bit of chocolate block.
Okay.
So soon a new vintage will be out. Also a great vintage for chocolate block. Kind of very refined vintage. So lots of like chocolate block this year with lots of perfume.
Yes.
And just beautiful tension. So that's going to be something I'm really looking forward to. And just keep on spreading the good word, and thanks for all the support.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, it's been great having you in the kitchen. It's been fantastic to share the experience with you. So thank you very much. Just for all of you out there, whilst you're going through your last little bits and pieces, in your packages, you've got some wonderful bits and pieces, including your voucher as well. So please make sure you use these fabulous vouchers at your next online shop as well, because there really is some fantastic offers. So stock up on wine. It is winter. We all like to, hunker down. I think you've tried 3 fantastic reds at that there. So that's there from the Pick n Pay Wine Club. Again, a big thank you to Pick n Pay, to Boekenhoutskloof, to Pick n Pay Online for delivering. I trust you've all got your orders. Well, you'd have had them by now. So thanks for that there. And then we've got 3 winners to sort of announce that will get a wonderful 300 Rand Smart Shopper voucher. The team will be in touch with you after the event, or probably tomorrow morning to get in touch with you there. Do you want to take the first one there?
No, you go.
Right, to Gigi, congratulations. We've got Gigi, Brian, and Matthew. So the 3 of you, well done. Congratulations. The team will be in charge. Thanks for sharing those wonderful pictures online there. And yeah, to all of you that have joined us, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to host you all. It's been great to be, still part of the greater Pick n Pay family overall. But, go shop local wines. It's really important to that there. Drink, eat, be merry. And look out forward to the next wine club event that will be hosted next month. There are fantastic events. I hope you've had all a wonderful experience. It's been wonderful to see you all on the screen in some form or another. It's all about happy eating, happy drinking. But really, from Gottfried, myself, the Pick n Pay Wine Club team, everyone at Boekenhoutskloof, online deliver from Pick n Pay, the whole team. Thank you very much, guys, for joining in. It's been wonderful to host you all. I love the parties. I love the couples and the pairs that we all have out there. It's been wonderful to have you. So to all of you, cheers and a big thank you from Pick n Pay Wine Club. So cheers and good night, guys.
Cheers.